It's so good to see you. Welcome to Stories from the Cabin. Come on in. Hi, thanks for joining us again. Marla and I, this is Marla, went down to the basement and looked into a chest that had all sorts of books from when my children were young. And so we're going to read them to you. Are you ready? Just a second. There you are. Okay, the first book is called The Turnip Top Pony. And we're going to dedicate this one to Charlie. And this is by Catherine Simpson. And I didn't mention before, but all these pretty pictures are made by someone too. And this is illustrated by Joanne Snook Han. Are you ready? Let's go. When Susan White's dad took Kit to the community pasture in Tickle Cove for the summer, Susan said, "She won't stay here, Dad." "Susan," said Mr. White, "Kit has worked hard all winter. She's hauled wood for us and for Nan, and she's given you kids lots of sleigh rides. And she wants a summer holiday." "I know, Dad, but she won't want to stay here. She'll want to stay with us." Mr. White smiled. "And what makes you think that, Missy?" "Because," said Susan, "I know she will." That night, Kit pulled the Longers aside and trotted down the road to Tickle Cove. These are called Longers right there. Next morning, a strange noise woke Susan. "Tump, tump, tump." She looked out the window, and there was Kit, banging on the stable door with her hoof. Susan went out and put her in the stable. At breakfast, there was another noise. Tap, tap, tappy, tap, tap. Susan's dad opened the door, and in barged Uncle Johnny Harnham from over the way. He was fit to be tied. "Bill White," he said, "that pony of yours got into my garden last night and ate my turnip tops." "John, calm down," said Susan's dad. "Maybe it wasn't the pony. Maybe it was Aunt Martha's sheep." "No, by the Dyans," said Uncle Johnny. "It was that pony." They all traipsed over to Uncle Johnny's garden to survey the damage. Sure enough, the turnip tops were all eaten. Susan picked up a leftover leaf and offered it to Kit. But Kit just wrinkled her nose at it. She didn't like it. "Look, Dad! Look, Uncle Johnny!" called Susan. "Come see this." But no one listened and no one looked. Susan and her dad took Kit back to the pasture. This time her dad tied the Longers tighter. "Kit didn't eat the turnip tops, Dad," said Susan. "Maybe not, maybe so," said her dad. That night, Kit untied the knot, pulled the Longers aside, and trotted down the road to Tickle Cove. Next morning, a strange noise woke Susan. Something was at her window. Tump, tump, tumpity tump. She looked out, and there was Kit, bumping the window ledge with her chin. Susan went out and put her in the small field next to the house. At breakfast, there was another noise. Knock, knock, knock-a-knock, knock. Susan's mom opened the door, and in barged Aunt Sally Tebow from across the lane, and she was mad as a hornet. "Bill White," she said, "that pony yours got into my garden last night and ate every single sign of my turnip tops." "Sally, calm down," said Susan's mom. "Maybe it was Bill Grogan's goat." "No, by the Dyans," said Aunt Sally. "It was that pony." They all traipsed over to Aunt Sally's garden to survey the damage. Sure enough, the turnip tops were all eaten. Susan noticed some tracks, but they certainly didn't look like pony tracks to her. "Look, Dad! Look, Aunt Sally!" called Susan. "Come see this." But no one listened and no one looked. Susan and her dad took Kit back to the pasture. This time her dad nailed the Longers in place. "She didn't eat the turnip tops, Dad," said Susan. "Maybe not, maybe so," said her dad. That night, Kit jumped the fence and trotted down to the road to Tickle Cove. Oh, can you see that picture? Look who's in the garden. Next morning, a strange noise woke the whole family. Tumpity, 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 and they all rushed to the back door to look. There was Kit, right up on the back bridge, knocking on the doorstep with her hoof. Suddenly, around the corner of the house marched Mrs. Pastor Posie from down the shore. She barged up the steps and into the kitchen, and she was in some tizzy. "Bill White," she said, "that pony of yours got into my garden last night and ate every single blessed one of my turnip tops." Susan's dad sighed. Her mother groaned. They all traipsed over to Mrs. Pastor Posie's garden to survey the damage. Sure enough, every single turnip top was eaten. Susan noticed something, and it wasn't something ponies do. "Dad, Mom, Mrs. Pastor Posie, come see this," she called. But no one listened and no one looked. That night, Susan's dad put Kit in the small field next to the house. "She didn't eat the turnip tops, Dad," said Susan. "And what makes you think that, Missy?" asked her dad. "Because," said Susan, "something else did." "Maybe not, maybe so," said her dad. Look. Later that night, the moose trotted down the road to Tickle Cove and right into someone's garden. Next morning, no strange noise woke Susan, but she got up early anyway and went out to check on Kit. What a sight met her eyes. "I knew it," said Susan. Then she started to laugh. She laughed so hard that this time everyone listened and everyone looked. Her dad and Mom, Uncle Johnny and Aunt Sally, the Reverend Mr. and Mrs. Pastor Posie, and all the people in Tickle Cove came out on their bridges. When they saw the moose eating Bill White's turnip tops, they all started to laugh. That's called a bridge, right there. They laughed so hard the moose decided to leave. He tried to find his way out but got confused by a clothesline, and the last they saw him, he was trotting out the road with a pair of Aunt Sally Tebow's drawers flapping on his antlers. "So that was our turnip-top pony all along," said Mr. White. "Just a lonely moose who followed a lonely Kit," said Susan. "You're right," said her dad. "I think we should keep Kit here with us for the rest of the summer." "I think so too, Dad," said Susan, and they did. Wasn't that a great book? I've really enjoyed it. Do you know, here in Newfoundland, we have a lot of great children's authors. So when the library is open, be sure to ask for them, okay? All right. Are you ready for the next story? I am. Okay. Ready? Okay. The next story we have is Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch and illustrated by Sheila McGraw. And this one we're dedicating to Michael, Charlie's brother. Love You Forever. A mother held her new baby and very slowly rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she held him, she sang, "I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The baby grew. He grew, and he grew, and he grew. He grew until he was 2 years old, and he ran all around the house, and he pulled all the books off the shelves. He pulled all the food out of the refrigerator, and he took his mother's watch and flushed it down the toilet. Sometimes his mother would say, "This kid is driving me crazy." But at night, when that 2-year-old was quiet, She opened the door to his room and crawled across the floor and looked up over the side of his bed. And if he was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The little boy grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was 9 years old. And he never wanted to come in for dinner. He never wanted to take a bath. And when Grandma visited, he always said bad words. Sometimes his mother wanted to sell him to the zoo. But at night, when he was asleep, the mother quietly opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of the bed. And if he was really asleep, she picked up that 9-year-old boy and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The boy grew. He grew, he grew, and he grew. He grew until he was a teenager. He had strange friends, and he wore strange clothes, and he listened to strange music. Sometimes the mother felt like she was in a zoo. But at nighttime, when that teenager was asleep, the mother opened the door to his room and crawled across the floor and looked up over the side of the bed. And if he was really asleep, she picked up that great big boy and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." That teenager grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was a grown-up man. He left home and got a house across town. But sometimes on dark nights, the mother got into her car and drove across town. If all the lights in her son's house were out, she opened his bedroom window, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of his bed. If that great big man was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Well, that mother, she got older. She got older and older and older. One day she called up her son and said, "You'd better come see me because I'm very old and sick." So her son came to see her. When he came in the door, she tried to sing the song. She sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always." But she couldn't finish because she was too old and sick. The son went to his mother. He picked her up and rocked her back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And he sang this song, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mommy you'll be." When the son came home that night, he stood for a long time at the top of the stairs. Then he went into the room where his very new baby daughter was sleeping. He picked her up in his arms and very slowly rocked her back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while he rocked her, he sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The end. Did you like that book? A lot of parents love this book. Are you ready for the next one? Me too. Our next book is Posie's Patterns. And this one was written by Tom Healy and illustrated by Joe Burrows. And this one is for Emma, who's the sister of Charlie and Michael. Are you ready? Let's go. Posie was a little girl who liked making patterns. Sometimes she put all her toys in a straight line with Tina, her favorite, in the middle. Sometimes she would line up her toys one behind the other with Tina at the front. When Posie built a tower, Tina went on top. Posie was always very neat and tidy, but she did have one problem, and the problem's name was Gus. Gus was her little brother, and he was not very interested in neat patterns. He spent a lot of time pretending to be an airplane. Sometimes he might bump into a line of toys or knock down a tower. Then Posie called him Little Pest. What on earth was the point of little brothers? Posie's mother usually brought Gus along when she took Posie to the nursery school. One morning, Posie walked all the way there without treading on a single crack in the pavement. She just walked on the squares. At the nursery, there was a draft board. Posie did not know how to play the game, but she liked to walk her fingers across the squares as if they were paving stones. She took care not to tread on any lines. The teacher, Carol, helped Posie do some painting with poster paints. First, they took half an onion and dipped it in paint. It made a pattern of circles. Then they took half an apple and dipped it in paint. Posie was surprised. It made the shape of a star. Then they carved shapes in half potatoes and printed them too. They made the shapes of a cross and a diamond and a triangle and a heart. When her mother came to collect Posie, Gus found the place where the paint pots were stacked. He tipped one of the pots onto the floor. Look at him. Oh. Gus dipped his finger in the pool of paint and tried to draw a straight line on the wall, but it came out kind of wiggly. Just give me a moment here. Oh, there we go. Then he did a zigzag. Gus got covered with paint. He made handprints on the wall and footprints on the floor. Gus, shrieked his mother. Gus, shouted Posie, you little pest. You'll need a good bath when you get home, said his mother, doing her best to wipe off the paint. On the way home, they stopped at a supermarket. There was a neat stack of soup tins piled up like a pyramid. Gus, no. Oh. While Posie and her mother piled the tins up again, Gus found a tube of toothpaste. It was wonderful toothpaste with stripes in it. Gus, no! Posie and her mother were glad to get out of the shop without any more disasters. Back at home, Gus was given a good hot bath, and Posie was left in peace. She invented a new game. First, she made a circle with mats and cushions on the floor. Then she jumped from one to another as if they were stepping stones. It was a brilliant game, but there was one problem, and the problem's name was Gus. He kicked up her cushions, and Posie called him Little Pest. Gus threw a cushion at her. Posie threw one back. They had a great fight, and by the end of it, Posie's pattern was completely ruined. Their mother came in and made them tidy the room up. Then Gus lay on the floor and watched television while Posie did a jigsaw. The picture had a ballerina just like Tina in it. Posie filled in the pieces until there was just one left to do. It was a piece with a ballerina star on it, but where was it? It was not on the table. It was not in the jigsaw box. Posie looked all around but couldn't see it anywhere. It had fallen off the table and under the sofa. Only one pair of eyes was low enough to see it. "There it is," cried Gus, and he wriggled his arm to reach it. Then, very proudly, he handed it over. Perhaps, thought Posie, there was some point in little brothers after all. Even little brothers like Gus. The end. Wasn't that a funny book? I really liked it. Are you ready for the next one? Are you ready, Marla? Okay, let's get the next story. Our next book is The Wonderful Pigs of Gillian Jiggs, and this is written and illustrated by Phoebe Gilman, and this goes to our special friend Megan. A long time ago, as you may recall, Gillian Jiggs never cleaned up at all. Gillian Jiggs, it looks like your room has been lived in by pigs. Well, wonder of wonders, without any warning, Gillian cleaned up one Saturday morning. She made her room tidy and neat as a pin. Can this really be Gillian's room that I'm in? Gillian smiled. Then she looked all around. Now, where is that jar full of buttons I found? Look at these buttons, said Gillian Jiggs. Don't they look just like the noses of pigs? We'll make little pigs and then set up a store. I'm sure we'll sell at least 50 or more. We'll make lots of money. We'll be billionaires. Then Mother can rest and forget all her cares. Once Gillian started, she zipped right along, turning out piggies while singing this song. Gillian Jiggs, maker of wonderful, marvelous pigs. The first little pig had a sweet smiling face. The second one she dressed up in an old-fashioned lace. And then she decided to give them both names. She called one Clarissa and the other one James. The next little pig had a hat and a cane. His nose was George and his girlfriend was Jane. Miranda had red cheeks and long dark eyelashes. McTavish was old and had drooping mustaches. She made up a pirate pig, Blackberry Billy, to play with her princess pig, Lavender Lily. Gillian Jiggs, maker of wonderful, marvelous pigs. A striped pig named Dudley and a plaid pig named Sue, a family of Martian pigs. Beep, bop, and boo. She might still be sitting there sewing away, except Rachel and Peter came over to play. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Peter. Quick, come on in. Guess what I'm making, she said with a grin. They couldn't believe it. Pigs galore were scattered all over the bed, desk, and floor. Gillian Jiggs, your room really looks like it's lived in by pigs. They gathered them up and they took them all out. They made up a sign and they marched all about. Gillian Jiggs, maker of wonderful, marvelous pigs. 10 cents a pig, not 1 penny more. They're waiting for you at Gillian's store. They came to buy pigs. They came by the dozens, brothers and sisters, best friends and cousins. Was Gillian happy? Now here's a sad tale. How could she put all her pigs up for sale? Oh no, not Marlene. She's so cute and so cuddly. Oh, not my Clarissa or Rosie or Dudley. I can't give up Marvin. He'll miss his friend Thomas. I'll never sell him. I gave him my promise. No, no, not McTavish. I can't let him go. And Blackberry Billy would miss me, you know. I can't sell poor Gregory. He has the flu. He should stay in bed for the next day or two. I simply can't do it. It's over. I'm through. Then all of a sudden she knew what to do. Oops. Here we go. Step right up, friends. Have lots of fun. Sew your own pigs. Learn how it's done. We'll make hundreds and millions and zillions of pigs, said wonderful, marvelous Gillian Jiggs. And look at the back. There's instructions, so you can learn how to make your own little piggy. Ah. Our next story is Hush Little Baby by Sylvia Long. And this one goes to our new little friend, Kieran. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's going to show you a hummingbird. If that hummingbird should fly, Mama's going to show you the evening sky. When the nighttime shadows fall, Mama's going to hear the crickets call. While their songs drift from afar, Mama's going to search for a shooting star. When that star has dropped from view, Mama's going to read a book with you. When that story has been read, Mama's going to bring you your warm bedspread. If that quilt begins to wear, Mama's going to find your teddy bear. If that teddy bear won't hug, Mama's going to catch you a lightning bug. If that lightning bug won't glow, Mom's going to play on her old banjo. If that banjo's out of tune, Mom's going to show you the harvest moon. As that moon drifts through the sky, Mama's going to sing you a lullaby. And that's the last story for this series. Thanks for joining us. And we're sending you all our love. Aren't we, Marla? All our love. Dogs like books too. I know they do.